Rostraver, welcome back to our video devotional series, which we are calling Holy Uncertainty. If you remember, our definition of holy uncertainty is the capacity to live with a very loose grip or no grip at all on our plans, or more importantly, on the outcomes of our plans. Remember that a false sense of security comes when we put our hope and our confidence in the plan that we create or the outcome we are hoping to achieve. Rather, our security in this life comes from our relationship with God, who is our Father, and with us as children of God. That is where true security comes from. Last week, as we continued our study, we focused on the importance of allowing God to transform us into a people of rest for whatever happens next. This week, as we continue our study, I wanted to draw our attention to recognize that we have to live day to day on God's provision. In Matthew 6, Jesus is asked by his disciples how they should pray. And so Jesus shares with them what is now known as the Lord's Prayer. The prayer is divided up in two parts. The first part has to deal with a few petitions that deal with God's kingdom coming to this earth and transforming our lives and how we live. And then the second part of the prayer is focused on how we, as people who have received God's kingdom, how we ought to live in light of God's kingdom coming to this earth. Jesus shares these words in Matthew 6:11 when he says, "Give us this day our daily bread." When Jesus speaks of daily bread, he shares this as a reference to the necessities of life, not the luxuries of life. We are invited then, when we see these words and we think about these words, we are invited to trust that God will provide the grace, the courage, the confidence, the hope, and the joy that we need to go through each day of our lives. Most of our worries, though, stem from a desire to control the situations and their outcomes. But God intends for you and me as his children to trust that he is in control and that he will always provide for us as his children. It's easy to give God the future, mainly because we don't own the future. But we have to give him the present moment that we are in, and we have to say, all right, God, I trust you, and I trust that you will provide for me in this present moment. We know that you have provided for me in the past, and we know that you're going to provide for me in the future, but in this present moment, I put my trust in you to be my provider. We must fight the urge to grumble and complain like Israel did in the wilderness. If you remember anything about Israel's wilderness journey, they complained time and time again that they were thirsty, that they were hungry, that they were tired, that they were going to die, and God constantly provided for them. We must recognize that living in this present moment of the present day is exactly where God wants us to be. And in those moments, that is when we have to trust in him alone to provide for us. Just as God provided the manna from heaven for Israel, God will provide what we need for this present moment. He will provide the food we need, spiritual food. He will provide our joy. He will provide our hope and our confidence to move forward no matter how hard this certain trial and present moment is. God is aware of our needs, and he is providing for us in his timing, for his glory and for our good, so that we can be transformed into the image of Jesus. In the meantime, we are called to be a people with holy uncertainty, to trust in our God that he is the provider for us, that he is a good father who will provide for his children in all seasons of life. And when you remember that truth, you will find yourself living in the present moment, in the present hardship, in the present joy, knowing that your security is in your Father, not in the outcome of your situation. Until then, God bless Rostraver.